Hi, everyone. Okay, you can hear me. That's great. I just realized my machine camera is not where it's supposed to be. So let's put that where it's supposed to be so you can see it later tonight. Hey, friends, happy weekend. Happy Labor Day weekend for those of you in the States. It is a 3-day weekend for me, and I am so excited to spend some time in my sewing room. I've even got a special guest. Let's see if you can hear. Hello. You got to say something.
Hi.
Okay. My sister is in the room with me and she doesn't like to be on camera and she doesn't really like to be on recording either. So she will be in the room if you hear somebody in the background coughing, hacking, sneezing, screaming at a sewing machine. That is my sister. So for those of you that don't know, let me just bring you up to speed. My sister Nicole is a prolific crocheter. She is never seen without a ball of yarn and a crochet hook in her hand until, oh, what about a couple weeks ago, Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah. So about a couple weeks ago, all of that changed. She keeps saying, I want to learn to sew. I want to make a quilt. I want to learn to sew. I want to learn to sew. The problem with all of that is every time I sit down to try to teach her, she gives me a look that kind of looks like this. And then when I ask her if she understands what I'm saying, the scowl gets bigger. Truth be told, sometimes you can be the best teacher in the world, but the people that you might not be able to reach are your family. And that was the case for a number of years with her. So I bought her a sewing machine on 2 different occasions. She got bird's nest and it couldn't figure it out and put it up and gave it away. Or not gave it away, gave it up, I should say. And over the past few years, she has been prioritizing her own mental health, which means she is in a better mental state to be able to receive constructive criticism and input, and she's just a lot more calmer and she's not triggered as easily. And so she asked me again if I would teach her how to sew. And it took her about 6 months of begging me before I said, fine, we'll do this again. Okay. So she was up to visit around her birthday, and I set her down in front of my Juki and I showed her a few basic things, just FPP. I was like, okay, this is going to get you perfect points, and you're not going to have to worry about your seam allowance. You're not going to have to worry about this. You're not going to have to worry about this. And I showed her how to do it using a pair of scissors and just a friction pen to mark her 1/4 inch and using the scissors to cut. So not even a rotary cutter, not a special ruler, nothing, like completely old school. I showed her one round on a pineapple block using the It's So Emma foundation paper, the technique that she had to use, and she was off. She made like 2 or 3 blocks and then went home and she got sick, so she hasn't been able to pick it up since. But she's been telling me how excited she is to continue sewing, and she's trying to figure out, she was going to bring her brother machines with her this visit, and I was going to fix them for her. But then I thought, you know what? What if I invested in a good quality vintage machine for her? So Nicole now is the proud permanent borrower of a 1955 Singer 99K that runs like butter. And she has ventured into the world of traditional piecing with this one. So she's been sitting at her machine and she's taken, sounds like I have a screw over there that I'll have to tighten up, but she has taken 2 charm packs off of my shelf that I didn't even make a fuss. I just handed them to her. She's taken 2 charm packs off of my shelf and she is putting them together in a 9 across by 9 down. So a 9 by 9 orientation, and just focused on trying to keep that seam nice and straight and practicing keeping it a consistent seam allowance. If it's an 1/8 of an inch, it's an 1/8 of an inch. That's fine. If it's a 1/2 an inch, it's a 1/2 an inch. That's fine. It doesn't matter because this is just going to be a patchwork quilt. So at the end of the day, her goal is to make sure that her seams are as straight as possible and they are consistently the same distance away from the edge of her fabric. And she is using a magnetic seam guide on that vintage machine to help her keep the edge of her fabric lined up just the right way. She is having a blast. She has even taken the time to take all of the squares that she has sewn together and lay them out in a way that is pleasing to her eye saying she's working on just making the rows. And so at some point tonight, she'll probably have her rows finished, and we'll teach her how to press those seams in opposite directions and start to nest the rows into themselves so that she can have a finished quilt top.
I'm already pressing my seams.
Well, okay, that's fine, but the even number rows are going to go in one direction, your odd number rows are going to go in the other direction. Okay, she's nodding. She already knew that. Okay. So,
I remember that from your thing.
She said she remembered.
You take the things in the corners, these seams will go one way,
okay,
and the seams go the other.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk here. So she is, I don't even know if you could hear her, which makes it a little distracting for me. Crap. I don't know what I was going to say. Well, at some point tonight, she's going to have a finished quilt top. We're going to have to teach her the art of wait until I've got a break to talk, because it just makes my train of thought go right out the window, which is honestly, probably truthfully, why I prefer to stream on my own, because anyway, no, you are fine. You are fine. Just like, I can't keep talking to you and talking to them at the same time. Where did she get her machine? Because I know that question's going to come up. She got the Singer 99K for me. Where did I find it? Ooh, excuse me. I actually contacted Bob, who's a gentleman who painted my machine. He restores and paints vintage machines, and one of the things that I'm really excited about is he likes finding them. So I called him and I said, hey, well, texted him actually, and I said, hey, my sister's looking for a machine. I want to get her something vintage that's going to hold up, but I need it to just be a straight stitch only machine. I don't want computers. I don't want electronics. I don't want any of that stuff. And I want it to be portable. So something with a case would be great. And also, I've bought her a machine a couple other times, so I don't want to break the bank here, because if this doesn't stick, I don't want to be out several $100s. And so he happened to have a Singer 99K that was sitting on his shelf that came with the carrying case, and he made me a heck of a deal. Like, if I'm being honest, I paid $100 plus shipping for this machine, and it is in beautiful condition. So that is what she's sewing on. All right, let's see. Camera flicker. I don't know why the camera's flickering. Oh, I see it. Nicole, you got to move that fan off of there. It's making the camera shake. Yeah. Sorry, guys. She's got a fan I have a fan that sits on my desktop blowing at me, but I needed to turn that off for audio purposes, and she moved it to the shelf where my tripod is sitting, and I didn't realize it was making the camera shake. So apologies for that. Thank you for sticking around for all the things. Anyway, Meow says she needs to tighten a screw to get rid of the shake. Okay, I don't know I think you're just talking about the camera shake. Yep. Sorry, guys. Earthquake. Yeah, I get you. I know. I'm sorry. It's fixed. All right. All right. We're just gonna move on. Okay. So what am I going to work on tonight? Well, before we dive into the project, I just want to give my disclaimer, because I've been getting some comments on my live streams. I think people are coming into the live stream replay and they think this is a recorded, edited tutorial that is supposed to be just the content and nothing else. And that's actually not what this is. This is a live stream. So I am interacting in real time with people that are in the chat. So if you are watching this at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, August 30th, 2024, I am live. It is 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time right now, and I'll probably be live for about an hour or two. So if you're watching this after then it's probably the replay, and you're just going to listen to me babble. If that's your thing, that's fine. And if it's not, I totally get it. I have edited videos out there without the babbling. But I want you to know that that's what this is it's a live stream replay. And so the whole purpose of this video, the whole purpose of my Friday nights, is for me to sit in my sewing room, sew on whatever I want, chat with you guys, and read the chat and answer some questions that are out there. So if you have a question, tag me in it. Mary, Donna, Ian, my moderators, Tiffany, anybody's name who's blue has a way to get a hold of me offline if I don't see it, so I can answer those questions. And yeah, that's it. That's just what this is. It is me sewing on a project that I want to work on at whatever speed I want. But really, more importantly, it's really just about hanging out with you and having some time with you. Not about teaching something in real time. Though, if there's a technique that I'm working on and you would like to see me teach you something in the moment, I am happy to do that. But if you're looking for a full, like just a tutorial, I'm happy to make that for you too, but that's not what this video is. I think I covered that. Sorry. All right, so let's talk about what I am going to be working on tonight. Well, I have this quilt. Let's see. We need to pause this because that's throwing me off. I have this quilt that's come back from Beth, and this might look familiar to you. It's a very common block, but I wrote a pattern for this. It is called Dancing Squares, and it measures quite big. It's a nice size lap quilt. I wouldn't make it a bed quilt, but it definitely is a good couch quilt, a nice throw. It's great. She did the quilting on this, and I'll bring it in a little bit closer so you can see the quilting on it. She did this kind of like wavy, we'll just call that some really pretty curves because I don't like ribbon candy. Ribbon candy, that's what that is. You can actually see it better from the front, but you can see the texture from the back. And she took the time to square the quilt for me and serge the ends. So technically this quilt, I could just gift it the way it is and it could move out into its forever home. However, I'm going to bind it because a quilt should be bound. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm trying to decide what I want to bind it with. I have 2 fabrics that we're going to audition, and we're going to let you guys choose. I might grab a third, actually, if I can find the right color. So give me a moment to do that. Let me see if I can find a blue that will match that. I don't think I have one. But if I do, that would be great. Let's see. I wonder if this... Oh, that might be fun. Yeah, okay. One more second, because we're going to look and see if I got a couple other options that we can choose from. And then I'll narrow it down, and then you guys can help me pick what I'm going to put on the outside. I'm going to tell you well, maybe. Okay. Okay, that's a better fit. All right, so I've got 4 options for you. I don't know if that's going to be a great fit, though. Sorry, I'm still looking. But this might be. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I've got 4 fabrics that I've pulled, and I'm going to show them to you in the overhead camera. And you can just tell me the color in the chat. In fact, maybe I'll start a poll. I'll put the poll out there, and then I'll show you what they are. And then you can just vote, and the one that has the most votes is the one that's going to get it. So start a poll. Which binding fabric should I use? And we'll say black, pink, green, and blue. All right, so here is the poll. It has started, and now I'm going to go to the overhead camera. I'm going to show you what those options are, and it will give you a side of the quilt so that you can see those fabrics. So here is the top corner of the quilt. This is the black. You can see that there. This is the pink. This is the blue. And this is the green. And so if you can't tell, what I'm trying to do is pull out the colors that are in the quilt. This is the black that I used for the background. This pink matches quite nicely with this. The blue, I know there was another blue that I had that was darker than that, but this one matches better with this. And this green kind of goes to that citron. Right now, it looks like blue might be taking the lead. Let's see what you guys are saying. Oh, no, green is taking the lead with 34. Well, and you guys are still voting, so I'm just I'm watching. Don't forget, you're going to want to click on the poll and click on your color, because I'm looking at the metrics on the poll. I'm not looking at the chat right now, but right now the green is in the lead with 36%. This is the one that you guys seem to like the most. Which one would you vote for, Nicole?
Probably the blue.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love blue.
Yeah, that blue is really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And I have plenty of all of these to do whatever I'd like with. So, yeah. Well, 39% with the green. Only 160, only 168 votes. So, and now we're jumping up 181, 39% with the green. We're going to let that run for a couple of minutes. So, these, don't forget, this is the poll. These are the colors that we're looking to have you help me choose. So, we're going to go back to the headshot. Danelle Stitchery is here and she says hello. Which one? Do you see him now?
I would do the green.
You would do the green? Yeah. Linda said all of them? So
I like that blue though.
yeah, the blue's nice. The blue's nice. Green is right now leading with 40%. So we'll see how this settles.
The green kind of frames it in more.
And it can. And there's not honestly a lot of the green because you either have it as this small square over here, which I know you can't really see, but you either have the small square in the center or you have this. You have more of the pink and the blue. So by putting this in here, you might pull that citron out. So that's lots of pinks in the chat, Melody said. All right. Well, anybody who didn't do, I don't know why it won't let you vote. I'm sorry. I don't know why it won't let you vote. Maybe if you voted once already? All right. Black with a pink flange because I love phalanges. Ooh. Free Spirit says if we used black, the blocks would pop even more. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Like it's already got all that black in there, that dark in there.
Yeah, but if you do the black, you have no color. Your eye won't go to a color. It's just going to fall off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Donna said, ooh, do a phalange. A phalange. Maybe. Yes, what Math Geek says. I mean, we could do a black with a color, with that green of a flange. Like, what if it was just like that, right?
So what is a flange?
Well, maybe we do a flange so I can show people what a flange is. But basically what a flange binding is when you prepare your binding, you're going to cut 2 strips of fabric, one a little bit thicker than the other, and the 2 of them are going to be sewn together lengthwise, and then you're going to fold it in half. And what'll happen is on one side, you're going to have just that main binding, but the other side, you're going to see just a little bit of pop of color. And so when you fold it, when you attach it to the back of the quilt and then fold it over to the front, you're going to have a very narrow, like less than 1/4 of an inch pop of color right along your binding. So if you have 2 different, it's a way to add like a really thin frame right next to your border. So if we did that with a black, I think that actually would look really cool because the quilt would just kind of melt off into the background, but this green as a bright pop would kind of tie everything in. So I'm kind of thinking about that. Black with flange.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying phalange.
The green for the border part, but the black for the...
Yep. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do flange, and we're going to do it with the black and the green. And so I can show you guys how to do this because I do have an awesome binding video. I really do. But the one binding that I didn't talk about in there is flange binding. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So before I get into teaching you how to make a flange, let me tell you that when it comes time to make your binding for your quilt, sometimes it can be a little difficult to figure out what you need to cut and how much yardage you need. And so for that reason, I have got the solution for you, my friends. And it'll only cost you free $99. Cost you nothing. So we're going to go over to my website. I just want you to see where this is, sewbecca.com. And on a mobile device, you'll have to click the 3 lines on your mobile device, on your phone or whatever, to get to the menu. But there is a menu item called calculators, and I have several quilting calculators that are in here. Now, these are just freshly launched in the past couple of weeks, so there might be a typo or two in the script or the calculation. So if you are using these and you feel like the math didn't quite math, email me and let me know. Be sure in that email to tell me what you put in and what you expected to get and why you expected to get that, so that I can look at the scripting and make sure that everything's right, or if something needs a change, we change it. But there is a calculator for binding. So if I just go down from calculators down to binding, it's going to open up this, which I like to call the world's simplest binding calculator. I mean, it makes sense, right? And so for here, what I'm going to do is put in the quilt length in inches, the quilt width in inches, and then the width of my binding fabric that I'm going to use. But in the drop down up here, I can choose whether I want to use 2 1/4 inch for my binding, 2 1/2 inch for my binding, or flange binding. So like, it was almost like I prepared to do this, except I didn't. So I'm going to choose flange binding. And then I need to measure how wide and long my quilt is. I know that this quilt is square, so I really only need to take 1 measurement. So I'm going to use my 120-inch measuring tape, and I'm just going to go from one end of the quilt to the other. I can't remember how wide this thing is. And it's an estimate. I can always cut in a little bit of extra binding fabric if I'm worried that it's not quite where it needs to be. This is 72 inches wide. So we're going to go with 72 by 72 because it should be square. So those are the numbers that I'm going to plug into the calculator. The quilt is 72 inches long and 72 inches wide. And I'm just going to say that my fabric width that I'm going to use is 40 inches. It might be more than that, but I always assume that the width of my fabric is 40 inches unless I'm working with a wide back or something else. When I hit calculate, it's going to tell me that I will need a total of 308 inches of fabric. And to make the binding, I will need my accent fabric, 3/8 of a yard, my true binding fabric, 3/8 of a yard. And then it tells me what to cut from that yardage. From the accent fabric, I'm going to cut 8 strips of 1 1/4 inches by 40 inches. And for the true binding, I'm going to cut 8 strips of 1 1/2 by 40 inches. And that just means width of fabric. So I'm going to need 8 strips of both. One of them, the pop of color, is going to be 1 1/4 inches, and the regular, the black, is going to be 1 1/2. And so we're just going to go back over to this camera, and we'll come back over here to the chat where we can see everyone. We're going to stop the poll because we know what we're doing. And we're just going to get to it. So 8 strips of 1 1/2 inches from the black. Now, the only problem with this is I have got a beast of a bolt. This whole bolt is right here, and there's actually not much of it left on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull it off the bolt. There's probably only about 2 or 3 yards on here. And then I'm going to do what I normally do. Do you like how I just threw that behind me? Was that great? I'm going to do what I normally do for yardage. I'm just going to fold it so that the fold from the bolt comes up to the selvage ends. And I'm going to kind of do that all the way down. And then I'll get a comic book board and wrap this around my comic book board and put a bolt buddy, which is just a metal clip that'll hold the fabric on. You see these a lot of times in quilt shops when the fabric is still on the bolt. So I'm just going to kind of do this all the way down. This is going to allow me to get all of my cuts off of my yardage from my 12-inch ruler and right here from my desk without having to go to a big cutting surface. So I don't have a comic book board right now, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to very loosely fold this in on itself, and I can tidy it up a bit later. I just want to get it to the point where I can cut yardage off of it without dealing with the bolt. Now, when I get a fresh bolt of fabric, I will not do this with all 10 or 15 yards that are on the bolt, sometimes 20. I will wait until the bolt gets down to less than 3 or 4 yards to do this because it can become a bit unruly with anything more than 3 or 4 yards. But I do have, reminds me, my sister-in-law bought me one of those carpet cutters from like Home Depot. a power cutter that I could use to cut fabric off of the bolt, but I don't need to do that because I needed to put this on a comic book board anyway. All right. So I need 3/8 of a yard. I don't remember how many inches are 3/8 of a yard. Maybe that's a calculator I need to do. But I do know that half a yard is 18 and 4/8 of a yard is bigger than 3/8 of a yard. So I'm just going to cut 18 inches of fabric off of both my green and my black. Goodness gracious, my green and my black. Thank you. Crafty Pet says, I love that calculator. Trina Taco says, sheer brilliance. I always end up cutting way too much. Thank you. You're welcome. I am going to starch this fabric, by the way. I don't know why. I probably don't need to, but I tend to starch everything unless it's a pre-cut and I'm not going to cut it down further. So that's what I'm going to do. And you can tell me it's a waste of time in the chat. That's fine. I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, goodness. All right. So, Nicole, will you do me a favor? Akumu is sitting there whining at me. He wants my love, and I cannot give him my love right now. Can you take him out there and shut that door so that he's not just begging to come in at the glass? And I'll turn the air down to 72 instead of 74. Thank you. All right. Get this over here. Move my phone out of the way. Get this quilt off the floor. Turn on my iron. All right. I'm going to move the chat tonight over here so I can see a bit more of it. That way while I'm working. So if I'm looking kind of over this way, you know that I'm looking at the chat. Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mary Overbeck is saying, are you sure that calculated correctly? For 8 2.5-inch strips, you need 20 inches of fabric. Yes, I am, because remember, I'm doing a flange binding. That's what we were talking about a few minutes ago. So on the binding calculator, I chose, and maybe that math is wrong, but remember, I didn't choose 2.5 inches for my binding. I chose flange, which means I'm going to use 2 different fabrics. One of them is going to be cut 1.5-inch strips, and the other ones are going to be 1 1/4. So that's why I'm not, like, it was 3/8 of a yard instead of more than 3/8. But please feel free to multiply 8 times 1 1/4 and check the calculator to make sure it's right. And then multiply 8 times 1 1/2 to make sure that the calculator's right. We're still testing it, right? Yep, Mary, I got a whole extra bolt of that, so no worries. But I was going to set this extra in your box so that you have it. And then I'll just use the fresh bolt that's on my shelves. Polly Christopher says, thank you so much for working this information for us. You are awesome. Thank you. Oh, no worries, Mary. No worries. I talk fast sometimes. My mom always tells me to slow down. She can't listen that fast. So I probably just went through all the words really, really quick. There was a TV show that I used to watch. I think it was Full House, that this character was on. And one of the characters from Full House, they had a friend that spoke super fast when I was growing up, and I thought that was cool. So I remember being in junior high wanting to talk fast all the time. So I'd be like, because I thought she was funny. I thought it was cool. And I think it kind of stuck. I can talk really fast, but ironically, what's hilarious is at work, this is not my work voice. At work, I'm like this. So I think what we need to do is take our action items down and send everybody out an email. I mean, sometimes I go a little fast, but I feel like the mom voice in me doesn't get agitated and angry and yell. When I get when my mom voice comes out, my voice slows down and gets softer and calmer. And then you're like, "Oh, Becca's mad." So what I need you to do is go upstairs, turn on the water, get in the shower, take off your clothes, get in the shower, use soap, use shampoo, rinse it out of your hair. Nicole, is your mom voice loud?
Yes. I am very demanding. If I have to repeat it more than 3 times, I get demanding and mean and angry. That said, I no longer really have to repeat myself except for what Tarby.
Kimmy Gibbler? No, I don't think it was Kimmy Gibbler, but I did love Kimmy Gibbler. Auntie Carol says, exciting news. I just got my own ruby yesterday from Marketplace. It came with a lot of other things, including a nightgown still on the tissue pattern. Well, congratulations, Carol. Congratulations. Ellen says, I love the calculators. I'm bad at math. I'm waiting for the iron to finish heating up. The only problem that I have with the cordless iron is sometimes I'm fine. Mine's good. Plus, you shouldn't be walking around with a hot iron in your hand. She threw me off. She was coming in hot with a hot iron going, here. The only problem that I have with the cordless irons is sometimes when you're doing a lot of starching, you can get like excessive amount of starching. You can get the iron to have to recharge in between strips, going between the two different salvages, but most of the time it's okay. And usually I find that's the issue if I did an excessive amount of starch or I didn't let the iron fully heat up before I used it for the first pass. So let's talk about things that are coming up. I want to make sure you guys are all aware that Donna from Handmade by Ying next week is going to be starting a sew along featuring one of my patterns. And if you are a VIP member on my website, you can get the pattern downloaded for free. Remember that VIP program is only $5 a month. If you do !VIP in the chat, that'll get you a link to sign up for my VIP. Otherwise, you can buy the pattern from my Etsy shop. It is normally $10, but through tonight and tonight only, there is a code that you can use to get $5 off. So bringing that pattern down to $5. And I believe it is Donna Garden. I gave her that code. So Mary or Donna or somebody can put the link to the pattern in the shop and then type in that code too, if you guys are interested in getting that. But that is only good for a few more hours. And I believe she's going to break that up over 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. She went through all the details for her sew along tonight on her live stream. So I will link to that video in my description box down below after the live stream is over. So you can go over and get that information if you're interested. Oh, it was Vanessa's friend. That's right, Becca, or Mary. I called Mary Becca. She said, no, that was the Cosby Show. It was Vanessa's friend. Yes, now I remember. Is that right, Mr. Huskell? Dr. Huskell. That's what it was. Now I remember. I can't remember anything that she said, but I remember she talked really fast. Hello, Mom. Mom is in the chat. Everybody say hi to Mama Nancy.
Hi, Mom.
I think she's in the chat. I just saw somebody say hi to Mom. So I was like, oh, is Mom in the chat? Hello, Mom. Da, 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 da. Guess what I finally watched this past week, Nicole? Have you ever seen Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve? I never saw it.
I love that. I can rewatch that movie over and
Oh,
over
I
and
watched it
over.
for the first time. I was like, okay, all right, it's time. I got to watch this. So I like to watch a movie or a TV show. We've talked about this before. I like to watch things that are nostalgic for me when I go to bed. And so I went upstairs earlier this week and I'm laying in bed and I decided I was going to watch Somewhere in Time. So I pull it up and I start the movie. And Jason comes in. He goes, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Somewhere in Time." He said, "Oh, okay." Now, my husband has seen every movie under the sun, like literally. The other night, and by other night, I mean probably a month ago, I started a movie and he wasn't even looking at the screen. He just heard the first few notes. And he was like, "Oh, I know this movie." And I was like, "Well, it's called this." Da, da, da. I couldn't remember what it was called. And I said, I was like, it's this, and I think Ryan Reynolds was in it, maybe. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's the one where," and then he gave away the ending, but he couldn't. I was like, "Have you seriously seen this before? Because I haven't." And he was like, "I don't know, maybe." And I was like, "Babe." So I had to go look it up, and then sure enough, he got the plot right. Couldn't remember what it was called, but he remembered the movie. The man has a steel trap when it comes to movie plots and sounds, but man, he'll ask you a million times on 5 different occasions what day he has off work because he can't keep that straight. So funny how it works. So anyway, turns out that the plot line, one of the main characters in the movie ends up dying. So I was like, well, you just saved me from watching that before bed, thanks. Because I don't want to watch a movie that's sad like that before I go to sleep. So, all right. Now that I've got my yardage starched, we're going to go ahead and cut this. Now remember that bigger fabric, the main fabric, in this case it's going to be the black, needs to be 1.5 inches wide, whereas the pop of color, that thin strip that's on the inside, needs to be 1.25 inches wide, and I need 8 of each one. So we're going to get my ruler back out. Hey, Scene S, thank you so much for joining the channel, supporters. I appreciate that. Becca, do you wash your fabric before using it? No, I do not. I just pull it off the shelf, I starch it, and I use it. Rose is asking, Becca, are you still working on your daughter's elephant quilt? I would love to see the finished product. I am still working on it. It is not finished yet. Pamela is asking, are you doing Lori Holt's snowman quilt with Becky Thompson and a few others? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I didn't even know that they were doing that because I've not been paying much attention to that stuff. I'll have to go take a look though because I do love snowmen. Okay, so 1.5, that's 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5. Okay. I'm just looking to see, so the way I cut my fabric when I'm cutting strips out of this, I could take this over to my Stripology ruler, which I do have on the other side of the room on a very big cutting mat, but I'm not going to get it over here on this small mat. The ruler is bigger than my cutting mat and it would just be much more difficult for me. So I'm going to do what I normally do. When I'm cutting yardage, let me show you my trick. I'm going to go to the overhead. And so what I do when I'm cutting my yardage is and it's hard to see because this is black on a dark gray mat, so I apologize. I look at my ruler and I think about how wide this ruler is, and I know it's 8.5 inches. Then I think about what size strips am I cutting? Well, I know I'm cutting 1.5 inches. So I think about, all right, well, I have 8.5. What is the maximum number of strips I could get out of this if I'm cutting 1.5 inches? And so I do a little bit of math in my head, and that's what you just saw me do. I was like, 1.5 and 1.5 is 3, plus 1.5 is 4.5, plus 1.5 is 6, plus 1.5 is 7.5. So I know that I can get, I don't even remember how many, I think it's 5 strips at 7.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is lay this down. I have folded the fabric in half, lining up the selvage edges, and then I very gently take the fold and match it up to the selvage edges, and I will scooch this back and forth until it's hanging nice and straight with no warps, no twists, and I'll make sure that my fold has got all 4 pieces of fabric right here. And so I'm going to bring this in, and then I'm going wait, the flange part should be the bigger width? Hold on, before we go any further, let me double check because maybe my math was wrong. Hold on, Felicia. Let's see. Flange. If my keyboard would work. Binding measurements. Binding fabric should be 1.5 inches wide and flange fabric should be 1 3/4 inches wide. Okay, I need to update my my calculator. So I'm just going to bring the binding page offline temporarily while I fix that calculation because I don't want to steer anybody else wrong, but it'll be back up tonight. So it'll just be offline temporarily. So just give me a moment. We're going to go into binding and disable the page temporarily. There we go. So now you can't get to it, but it'll be back up later. So 1.5 from this, 1 3/4 from the green. So we're at 7.5 is the chunk of fabric that I'm going to cut. So going back to the overhead. And I'm going to just cut through this like that. And then I'll flip this around and we'll do 7.5. I'm putting the 7.5 inch mark right on that edge of fabric that I just cut. And then this is going to be waist. I'm making sure that this line down here at the bottom is right on that fold. So this should be straight, giving me a perfect 90 degrees right down here. And then I'm going to cut through this. And when I do and take it off, it should be one continuous piece of fabric. If it is, then I know I went through all 4 layers of that and I'm getting a nice clean edge. So I've done that. And now all I'm going to do is move my ruler over 1.5 inches, take a cut, move it over 1.5 inches, take another cut, always measuring from this same line. So 7.5 minus 1.5 is 6. 6 minus 1.5 is 4.5. Make sure that this is straight and this is straight every time. 4.5 minus 1.5 is 3. Three minus 1.5 is 1.5. And that gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 3 more strips to get my 8 that the calculator called for. So I need 3 more. 3 times 1.5 is 4.5 inches. So I only need 4.5 inches off of this, but I think I'm going to go with 6 for good measure, just to be safe. I'm going to go with 4. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to make 4 strips. That's why I cut it at 6 inches. There's 1. Here is 2, 3, and 4. All right, I cut 9 instead of the 8 that was needed, which is probably overkill, but it's fine. I would rather have too much than not enough. This is my extra. It'll go in my scrap bin to play with later. No, I don't wash my fabric first. I thought I answered that question. I'm sorry. Hallie says, I always thought flange binding was a separate piece of folded fabric added to the regular binding. This method is new to me. Well, there's 2 ways that you can do it, and this is the way that I am choosing to do it. It's probably a little bit more work, but it's what I'm going to do. It's going to be great. So I'm going to cut 9 if I can off of this, and if I can't, I'll get another piece off of the bolt. So this is going to be 1 3/4, which is not as easy for me to do. So we're going to do on my calculator 8.5 divided by 1.75. I should be able to get 4.85, so 4 strips of this. So because I want to round down, 1.75 times 4 is 7 inches. So I'm going to cut off a 7-inch chunk. And you can see a little bit better this time around because I'm working on a brighter fabric. There's one 7-inch chunk. I'm going to go ahead and cut a second one because I know I'm going to need that too. I'm going to put the 7-inch line right on this cut edge. Make sure that my bottom fold is lined up on my ruler. And then I'll have one more over here that will do 1 3/4 right here, just like this. And then this is my scrap to play with later. We're going to subcut these down. We'll do this one first. So 7 minus 1 would take me down to 6, minus 3/4 would be 5 1/4. There's 1. Take away 1/4 takes me down to 5, and now I just need to go down 1.5 inches. So 4, 3.5. And I know 3.5, half of that is 1 3/4. So this should give me my last 2 from this strip. It's amazing how quick you can end up doing math with fractions when you become a quilter. All right, there's 5. Now I need 4 more out of this. We're going to clean up that edge. So remember, we did this at 7 inches, 7, and then 5 1/4, and then 3.5, and then 1 3/4. Those were the cuts that I made. 5 1/4. 3.5. Mary says, I love that citron color and I don't really know why. There we go. All right, now all of these are cut. So I think the next step, and I'm going from memory here, so if I'm going to do this wrong, you guys are going to tell me. You're going to keep me honest. My next step is to, I could do this one of 2 ways. I can either join all of the greens and then sew them together, and then join all the black. I could either join all of the greens and then join all of the blacks and then sew them all together. Or I could sew this together, sew this together, sew this together, sew this together, and then join them on the diagonal, which is honestly, I think what I'm going to do, because I think this is going to make it a little bit easier for me to control because I won't have 400 inches of binding just hanging out that I got to sew all along. So I'm going to do this in smaller sets and then I'll join them on the diagonal just like I normally would. Becca, do you always cut your fabric this way? Yes, I do. And it's honestly why I don't use a stripology ruler as much as I can, because, or as much as I should, or as much as most people would, because it's just easier. Like, this is what I've learned. And I feel like I can cut pretty efficiently without it. But it does mean you have to do math. So there's that. So I am joining this up. I'll bring you over to the 3 all green then all black. You would do all green then all black? Would anybody else not do it this way before I start? Becky Klein says, don't you just love quilter's math? I need 1/4 yard, but I'll buy a half for good measure. Or I need 8 strips, but let's just cut 9 to be safe. Ellen says, numbers make my eyes twitch. That's funny. Let's go to the 3 camera setup so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to bring you down in just a bit more, make this a little bit tighter. Here we go. So if there's anybody out there that tells me not to do it this way, okay, I'm doing it my way. If it won't work this way, tell me, but I think it will. Change my stitch length down. I was doing some FPP earlier. So we don't need that super tight 30 stitches per inch. We're down sitting around 10 stitches per inch. Don't forget, for those of you that have a channel here on YouTube, if you would like to promote yourself, you can drop !selfie in the chat, and that's going to tag you. It's going to put your name in there, but it's also going to let the Quilty bot, which is just my chat bot, grab your channel link and share it with everybody so that after the live stream, if people want to check out your content, they can do so. Now, I'm going to say the only problem with doing this method is I'm going to have to clean up the edges after I sew all these together, but I want to get rid of the selvages anyway, so that's fine. Plus, I mean, doesn't the sound of this machine just make you drool?
Not as much as mine.
Nicole, your machine definitely has a different sound.
So pretty. Very soothing.
Should you be careful about the directions of the stripe when you're sewing? I think this is not true directional. I think it's only directional one way. So let's take a look at the overhead, right? So if I put the fabric going, hold on. I think it's always going to start from the top left and go down to the right. So there's one. And if I flip it over, it's still, oh wait, no, because the leaves, you're right. No, nope, 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 hold on. Okay, so if you look really close in here, first off, the direction of this is always going this way, but sometimes they point this way and sometimes they point that way. So it's going to be fine no matter what I do. It'll be okay. But good catch. Love Nicole's machine sound also. Yeah, can you guys hear it in the background when she's sewing? Here, do you want to take a microphone so they can hear you?
Sure.
Here, this is turned on. Just clip it to the front of your shirt. And then when you're sewing, they'll hear the click, click, click of your 99, which is a soothing sound too. Do you know how long it's been since I've done a flange binding? It's been a long time. People are saying they love the sound of your machine, so we're going to let you give them a little ASMR sewing once you get that needle threaded again. She got her needle unthreaded.
It keeps on breaking on me, the thread.
Well, the tension might be a little too tight. We'll take a look at it later. If the tension's too tight, it'll be pulling on the fabric and it'll cause it to break.
It's done that several times.
Okay, well, the tension might be too tight. We'll take a look at it later. I am finger pressing this over, and I just want to show you that I think, and mostly I just want to test to make sure that I'm right, we're going to try joining these two strips together. on the diagonal just to make sure that this does what I think it's going to do. I could be wrong. I have been wrong before. So while my iron is heating up, I just finger pressed everything over to the black because that's the darker of the two fabrics. No real rhyme or reason. And I normally wouldn't have finger pressed over except for my irons heating up. So there we go. Darlene Rice says, first time catching a live in a long time. That is a beautiful machine. Thank you. Pam Strongless says, love that sound. It sounds like my mother's old Singer treadle. Norma Lovelace says, hello, Becca and everyone in the chat. Linda says, I used to have a 99K with the wood case. It was lost in one of 100 moves. Oh my goodness. Ruth Roberts says, I love that we are all happy with sewing machine purrs. Oh boy, my Friday nights have changed, right? Like we can just sit here and listen to it go purr, purr. Somebody told me it sounds like a water machine, the 301. I've been bit by the vintage bug, and I love my Juki. She's a workhorse, but I do love my 301. We're going to press this one and then we'll join them together. Deb is asking, can you show her machine? I can't take a camera over there, but I will share a picture of it later when we do our Sew and Tell in the Facebook group. Pam Strong says, when I was young, my Friday nights were spent dancing. Now I wait for someone's iron to heat up. Sorry. I mean, dancing's kind of hot. Irons are kind of hot. It's just a different kind of heat, right? Meow is saying, Becca, where did you get your vintage Singer? I bought it off Facebook Marketplace. And got it for $50, and I sent it down to a friend's father who restores machines and paints them, and he custom painted this 301 red, so we call her Ruby. If you are interested in having a machine custom painted, you can email Mary at sewbecca.com or email me at becca@sewbecca.com, and we'll get you his contact information. But excuse me for a moment, because her machine's squeaking that screws come a little loose again. So we're just going to take a screwdriver, put it right here, and we're going to tighten that up. Probably need some oil in it somewhere. I don't know where the squeak's coming from. We'll have to look at it later. I shouldn't be making that squeaking noise. All right. No, you're fine. Oh, Mary says, you did have a short video about the machine. It's gorgeous. I did. So if you guys saw my reel on Instagram or my short here on YouTube, I've shown it off. So you could check that out too while you're waiting. So I'm just going to cut off my selvage pieces. Then I'm going to try and join these two together to make sure it does what I think it should. So when I join my binding, I always pick it up. I put one side going out to the left and the other one coming top down to the bottom. And then I test flip it over to make sure it looks the way I expect it to. And in this case, it does. So all I'm going to do at this point is pick it up, take it to the sewing machine, and I'm going to start stitching in the crevice in that upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to come straight down at a 45-degree right there. And when I come back over here, that's doggone. That's great. I'm not worried about the patterns not matching up perfectly. I'm more worried about the black continuing, because when this is all done, what's going to end up happening is you're only going to see that little tiny sliver. That's going to be just fine. So we're going to continue doing this the way that I have been doing it. We're going to build out our black and green, and then we're going to add them here and get our binding ready to go onto the quilt. Okay, so this is started. Let's keep going. Becca, the vintage machine, do you like more than the one you got your sister or Ruby? This is Ruby. I like Ruby more than her 99K. But I think there's also, I just feel attached to Ruby in probably the same way that Nicole does feel attached to her machine. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. I just feel attached. I don't really want to sew on anything else. I will, but this is what I want to work on. It's so funny because I remember when I first started sewing, I told myself I was never going to make a quilt. But even before then, if we back up even just a little bit before then, I was so sure that I would never sew. I tried all sorts of different crafts and none of them really stuck. And a few people had said, well, have you ever tried sewing? And I kept telling them, you're out of your mind. I would not. I would never. I would never. I would never. And then one evening, a friend had a get together with some other friends, and she called it a sip and sew. So you just brought yourself, and she would supply the fabric, and she had a couple of different sewing machines, so everybody got to take turns. And you brought a beverage of your choice, and you just kind of hung out, and she would help you make a very easy sewing project. The last time I had touched a sewing machine, I was in home ec in like 7th grade. But I thought, okay, fine, whatever, I'll try it. Well, the next day, I went out and bought my own sewing machine. I worked on a Brother quilting machine that I got from Costco for about a year before I upgraded to a previously loved Baby Lock, and I used that for a long time. But when I got that Brother and I started sewing, I was trying to make all sorts of practical items. I wanted to make totes. I wanted to make bags. I wanted to make lanyards. I wanted to make hot pads. I wanted to make purses, and I wanted to make a little like clothing hacks. I won't say that I was a seamstress and made clothing, but I didn't mind trying to hem jeans or pants or turning a tank top, attaching a piece of cotton fabric to the bottom of a tank top and making like a little maxi dress for my daughter. And my mom said, well, you should make a quilt. And I said, you should kiss my butt. But I had very limited space, and it was kind of appealing to work on just a block, something smaller, because everything else that I had been working on, there was so much cutting for a purse or a bag. I felt like I was spending a day cutting out all of these odd shapes to put into a bag. And then when it came to clothing, you were cutting really big pieces of fabric to match the clothing pattern or the clothing hack pattern. So there was something freeing about, oh, wait a minute, I only have this small table and I can do everything on this small table. I don't have to go to my dining room table and clear everything off to lay everything out to cut. That was really nice. And I think that kind of got me interested in making quilt blocks. But it's just kind of one of those things where, you know, you think you found your love, you think you found what is going to work for you, you think you figured it out, and then something comes along and completely flips the script. I love my Juki. Absolutely love my Juki. And I have been sewing on that Juki since 2021. Absolutely love it. But before then, I had my Baby Lock, and I absolutely loved my Baby Lock, and that's all I stitched on was a Baby Lock. I didn't have any other machine. And then when I got the Juki, because I wanted something that would go faster and be able to go through a lot of thick layers, I got the Juki, and I haven't looked back since. I absolutely love it. But when I got the Singer, I was just done. I was like, nope, this is it. This is what I want to sew on. I don't want to sew on the Baby Lock. I don't want to sew on the Juki. I have them both here in the sewing room with me. There have been a couple of projects, though, since I've gotten the 301 that is as wonderful as this machine is. She just isn't meant to stand up to the layers the way the Juki is. And so there's been a couple of times where even though Ruby's here, I've gone and sat at the Juki and worked at the Juki because I needed the power behind that Juki to get through some really thick seams. Norma is saying, Becca, hello to your... My mom's not here. Do you guys think my mom is here? That's not my mom. That's my sister, Nicole. Something sounds off on that machine. I think we're going to have to oil it. But I don't know where to oil it. I have to look at the manual just now, Nicole. I can't stop the live to go oil your machine.
No, I thought you might have known.
No. You can just wait to work on that for a little bit. Once we're done, I'll take a look at it, but I can't do it right now. Which Juki do you like better, the 18 or the 2010? They're the same exact machine. I wouldn't sew on that anymore until we can get it oiled. Because if it's squeaking like that, I wouldn't want to do permanent damage. Maybe take a break and rest your feet. Trina said, ooh, you cheated on Ruby. I can't help you.
It's okay, I'm just going to watch you sew.
Yeah, you're giving me the guilt trip. You're sitting there staring at me.
No.
Okay.
I promise. I'm just going to watch you.
It's awkward.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just so used to you before your meds that I would have been like, okay.
No.
I'm still learning I'm still learning your new behaviors. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I'm just watching. I like watching the needle go up and down.
It's soothing, isn't it? My guess is it probably just needs a drop of oil in the bobbin. Do you want to try that?
Okay. I want to watch your needle now.
Okay.
I hope you don't.
And it could be...
I'll leave.
No, it's fine. But I need you to...
Quiet.
Yeah. But I will tell you, there might just be a screw in there, because that's what it sounds like. There might just be a screw that needs to be tightened, but I don't know which screw it is, so I have to go look at it. That's what it sounds like to me, but I could be wrong. Meow is saying, or you could have her oil it. I could. The problem is I don't know all of the oil points on the 99K to show her what to do. I could give her a YouTube video, but I don't want to do that because then she'll have the audio up and you'll be able to hear it. And that will flag my video as duplicating somebody else's video, and that could be a copyright infringement. So it's really best that we wait to do that until we're off air. Norma Loveless says, oh, I thought it was your mom that was there. Hello, Nicole. No, this is Nicole. It's not my mom.
Hi, everyone.
Do you want to bring over what you've been working on and show them your progress so far? Or take a picture of it and put it in the Facebook group? Okay. Because in a little bit I will share. I also have some sewing machine grease coming tomorrow, Nicole, not just the oil. So if it needs to have a grease like on all the rotors and stuff, we can do that tomorrow.
Oh, it's probably tomorrow then.
Huh?
Might have to wait then.
No. After the live is over, we'll take a look at it and see if it's just a loose screw. Because when I tightened up the other screw, when it was making that noise earlier, it quit.
Yeah.
I think another screw just came loose. Sometimes with these older machines, the screws come a little loose. I learned that from Bob. Speaking of learning from Bob, you guys, Trina's Taco says she can help you with your extremely lonely EPP box. Are you spying on my EPP box that ain't getting any movement?
What is an EPP box?
well, a box is a box, but EPP stands for English paper piecing. And so when she's talking about my EPP box is a small lunch box that I have all of my EPP items in. It's a little sewing kit. English paper piecing is a process where you take little pieces of cardstock in various shapes. Most oftentimes they're synonymous with hexagons. And you wrap a piece of fabric around that cardstock and kind of baste it into place, either with glue or a big basting stitch. And then you hold the fabric right sides together and you sew them by hand together to build out whatever it is you're going to make. So it's hand sewing, and hand is a 4-letter word for me. I've started a hexagon about 2 months ago, and I'm still working on that same hexagon. But I like having it as an option. I just also very much like knowing that it's just an option and I don't have to touch it. Thank you.
Normally at this point, I would go downstairs and get my crochet, but...
Will you also post a picture of your sewing machine to the group so people can see that?
I posted a picture of what's underneath the needle. Did you want a whole picture of the...
Show a picture of your sewing machine and show a picture of your fabric.
Well, I showed a picture of the fabric.
Okay.
But I'll do a picture of the machine.
Okay.
Her name is
Mariska Ellen. What machine is she sewing on, Becca? She is sewing on a 1955 Singer 99K. Hand sewing itis. That's right, Mary. Becca has hand sewing itis. That's right. What is Flicky Chicky saying? What did you learn from Sew Bob? Nicole can start my tube top. Oh, Bill said you need to go start on his tube top.
Tell him I'm working on it now.
No, you're not.
No, I actually am.
Oh, are you really?
I'm crocheting on the top. It's a halter top, and I'm going to make it lace up the back, and then I'm even thinking about taking it to that level that I wasn't going to, and I'm going to make him some crocheted shorts to go with it.
Oh my gosh, he will love you.
And I'm thinking about doing a bag to go with.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm doing the top in like a rainbow, like pride colors. So it's so fun.
Okay. Okay. So let me tell you about what Sew Bob, as Bill affectionately calls his dad, taught me. You guys, last night, maybe it was the night before, all my days run together. I came home, no joke, the foot on Ruby was turned. It was angled. It was almost like it was pointing at like 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock, maybe even 4:30. And I have no idea what I did to make that happen. None. And I started freaking out. I was like, what the hell happened? So listen, I'm gonna bring you in really tight in here to show you what I learned, because you're gonna love this. So we're gonna go to the single camera and I'm just gonna bring you in down here. So the presser foot was going this way, right? Well, I thought, because this is my scant 1/4 inch foot and this is what I always use, but I do have the default foot and a couple others for the 301. I thought there was something wrong with my presser foot. So I lifted it up and I took the presser foot off. And so this is kind of how it was, right? Like you can't really see, but if I put the fabric under there, except it was more exaggerated. If the fabric's straight, It was more exaggerated. It was bad. So I was like, what's going on? Is this just loose? And so I took it off and I put it back on. And when I had it nice and tight, it was still off to the side. And so I took it off completely and put a different foot on, and it was still off to the side. I was like, what the heck is going on? So I sent Bill a picture of the machine, and I called him and I was like, what is going on with the machine? Have you ever seen this happen? And he was like, oh, yeah. Here's what you can try to do. And so I was like, all right. He said, open up the side of the machine, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. He said, open this up. And inside of here, this rod has a screw on it holding a silver piece to a black piece. And I can't show you because I can't bring a camera in here. But there's a screw on there. And he said, just tighten that. And I was like, but it's already tight. I tried. It's already tight. He's like, I don't know. He's like, let's see if we can get my dad on the phone to help you. And I thought, okay, all right. So Bob got on a phone with me, on a FaceTime call with me, and I showed him what was going on. He was like, okay. And he said, open that up. Can you tighten that screw? And I said, no. I was like, it's already tight. I don't know what happened. He's like, all right, well, get yourself a good screwdriver. So I got the right size screwdriver, which took me like 4 tries because I didn't know that there was a right size screwdriver for a screw. Whatever, leave me alone. So he said, get yourself a screwdriver and 4 quarters. I finally got to use my change purse that has a ton of change in it. So I pulled out 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters. So that's what he told me to get. And he said, I want you to put the needle up. I actually ended up taking the needle entirely out so that it wasn't in the way. And raise the presser foot, or raise the knee bar up until it's up and the feed dogs are down below. So once the feed dogs were down and this was up, trying to find it right there. There it is, right there. Then he wanted me to take these 4, I'm just going to put it up so that I can show you what he did. He said, I want you to slide 4 quarters underneath the presser foot. I can't do it easily with the needle in there, but basically he wanted me to put these 4 quarters underneath the presser foot, and that was going to hold the presser foot in the upper position, and the feed dogs had to be down so that it was flush with this metal plate. And then he said to go in and loosen this screw, and then that would allow me to turn the presser foot back into the 6 o'clock position and then tighten it up. I fixed my sewing machine with a screwdriver and 4 quarters. What I want to know is, how did he know it was 4 quarters exactly? Bill was talking about that. He's like, it kills me that he's like, oh, 4 quarters. That's the exact width that the presser foot has to be. Like, how did he know that? But now I know. And now you know. 4 quarters. Kill me. I still have no idea what happened. He said sometimes the older machines, the screws can get worked a little loose, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe I caught it on a piece of fabric. The only thing that I can think, oh, do you want to press? You like to iron. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is take some of these, and you're just going to roll it over to the black side and press it with an iron. You want to do some? I know you like to press. You can do that while I start joining, and then just bring them over and I'll join them all together. That'll be helpful. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Do you have
Do you want the black to the left or the...
Just seam, it doesn't matter. Just make sure the seam is going under the black. That's it. Okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm. She does love to press. She got really excited. We worked on a project together. She didn't sew a single stitch. She just pressed, and she didn't cut. She just pressed the fabric. And she was like, I love this. I was like, oh, okay. You're getting bit by the bug. I see this. Hello, Ellen.
You said you want to fold under the black?
Yep. That's called the seam. We're pressing to the dark side. We're pressing the seam to the black fabric. That's what this is called. And Nicole is the Iron Lady. Yes, she is. So what she was talking about, the thing that she's making for Bill, Bill has been begging my mother to make him this set of crocheted shorts made out of granny squares. And my mom keeps saying no and telling him that maybe he should ask Nicole. And so he got a hold of Nicole and asked her, and Nicole's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And then I guess they had negotiated on a halter top made out of crocheted granny squares. And turns out now she's like, oh, this is great. Now I'm going to do the shorts and a tote bag and a halter top.
But it's not granny squares, it's corner to corner.
Oh, well, whatever. He's probably going to be disappointed it's not granny squares.
Sorry, Bill.
All right.
You're going to love it, though. It's got all the colors for you.
All the colors for you. We're just going to make sure that that goes the right way, and then we'll bring this over and stitch it. 4/4 are the best hack ever, Sue said. The magic of vintage machines is that they are made that the average seamstress can maintain and repair their own machine, unlike throwaway society of today. You know, there was a certain amount of pride and accomplishment that I had when I had that issue, and I was like, I fixed it. I mean, yes, I had to be told what to do because I didn't know, but I fixed it. I didn't have to pay someone to take it in and look at it, and I fixed it. I fixed it. Bill said, I'll love it, Nicole.
Good. I'm almost done with the top part, like making the top part. I've got to finish closing in and narrowing in the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to put the border on for the top so I can make the straps.
So I just joined this together, and my black does not match up to my black at all. It's off a bit, so I'm going to rip that seam out and try again. Free Spirit said, Granny Square shorts, bad visual. That's what we've been telling him, and he's like, no, I want it. I need these. Okay, Bill.
Well,
no
I'll need
counting.
to find somebody else for the granny squares because I don't have that kind of patience to sew them all together. And all the colors, yeah, no. And anything that's not too colorful, I don't know, I just get bored. So.
Yeah, that's part of I have the same thing when I'm sewing, when I'm working on a quilt. Like if the fabric is the same and I'm just making the same block over and over and over again, I get bored and I want to move on to something else.
Yeah. I need variation in it.
Yep, same. So I'm trying to get this to line up a bit better, but I'm wondering if this might end up needing to be that should work right there. We'll see. Yep, that's better. I must have just not sewed that straight. So maybe what I'll do is pre-cut these and then just sew along that cut edge to make sure that I'm getting it nice and straight instead of eyeballing the 45 from one end to the other. So what that looks like for me is the length that I have already made is going to sit off to the side here. My new strip that I'm adding, I'm going to put this way to make my L. And then, nope, other way, this way, line it up. And then I'm just going to test flip to make sure it looks good. It does. I'm going to put my little ruler on top of this. Let me give you the overhead view so you can see a little bit clearer what I'm doing. I'm going to put my little ruler on here, and I'm going to put the 45-degree line right on this edge of my fabric. I'm going to bring this up so that it's going into that corner. That's not 45 degree, that's the 30-degree line. Just set it down. Thank you. I know that this is 45 degrees, so I want to cut right here. And now I can very gingerly pick this up, take it over to, and it just came apart because I pulled on it too much, but I can line it right back up. I can line it right back up. Just kind of match all those raw edges right at the right spots. There we go. And now let's see if this will work the way I think it will. I think it's lined up right. Ooh, that was way off. But I think it was the way I had it laid. Let's try it again. Janet Johnson says, "Morning, Becca from Western Australia. It's been a while. Curious where your Juki machine is and where the red machine is from. The Juki machine is on the other side of the room. It's still here, and I still use her. The red machine is a vintage Singer 301. It is a 1951 301. I got it on Facebook Marketplace and had her sent out to be custom painted." Let's test flip to see. That's where it needs to be, right there. Okay. There we go. Let's go ahead and sew that. Ah! This is starting to make me annoyed, so I've got way extra. We're just going to start over. We're going to make sure that those cuts are straight, though. So I'm going to just line this up, get a nice straight cut. That's why you cut 9 inches to be safe. It was working for me before when I did it this way, so we're going to do it this way. We'll test that. Nope, that didn't line up either. What the heck is going on? Like, this is horribly off. All right, you know what? We're going to do it again. When the diagonal doesn't work, we will just deal with the bulk. Because I'm about to bang my head against the wall with this. The most important thing is that the black continues and the green doesn't. And the green continues. So we're just going to match seams just like traditional piecing. And in this case, I will just roll this seam to the other side. Oh, that's the problem. Nicole, when you're pressing underneath the black, make sure you're pulling that seam taut.
I'm trying.
Okay.
I should probably flip it over and do the pressing like I did.
Do it from the back side. It'll be easier, and then you can hold that fabric because there's a couple of pockets in here on this strip, and it's making it hard for the black to line up to the black.
You need for me to redo it?
Nope, I've got it.
Okay.
It's just a learning lesson, that's all.
Let me know if you need me to redo these.
Let's try this one more time. That's nice and taut. That's nice and taut. If this doesn't work, then I will just do straight edges instead of the diagonal. Yeah, that's still off, but not as much. I don't like it. I want it to look better, so we're just going to go with the old school rolling seams in opposite directions. It does mean that I'll have a bit of bulk when it comes time to oh, people are saying that we should check the bobbin screw. We will. That's a good, I wanted to let you know that I saw that, and we will check it. Okay. All right, so all I'm doing is piecing like I normally would, and I'm just rolling seams in opposite direction and nesting them up. I will take the time to press these seams open though, so I can reduce some bulk. This is just going to work better in the long run, I think. So this one's going to go down. Okay, it's 9:30. So I don't think we're going to get through all of this tonight. So let me show you what my next steps are in case you want to continue working if you wanted to do this. I'm just going to stitch this one more piece on here. I just want to demo it for you, and then I'll finish it off camera and I'll post a picture of it to the Facebook group when it's all done. So once my flange binding is all prepared and I've got all of this length, then my next step is going to be to bring it over to my pressing surface and fold it in half, just like I normally would. And what's going to happen is you're going to get something that looks like this. You're going to have that really thin pop of green. So if I just press a length of it, I can show you what this starts to look like. Now, I know some people don't press their binding before they attach it to the quilt. That's totally fine too. Do what works for you, but this is the way that I do it. There are no rules in quilting except for whatever you're doing should bring you joy, even if it's the wrong way. Who cares? Your project, your rules. And then we're going to bring our quilt up.
See if that one's better.
While I'm doing this, don't forget to share photos of what you guys have been working on in the Facebook group. Exclamation Facebook in the chat will get you a link and you can drop your pictures in there. So I've got a length of this folded in half and pressed. So my next step is going to be to attach it to the quilt very much the same way that I would have done before. And so if let's use this as my example quilt. If I'm attaching it to the front and then I want to hand tack it to the back, then I need to make sure that I am attaching it so that the flange side is up against the front of the quilt. No, wait, that's wrong. Hold on. Let me think. Yep, okay. Okay. The back of the quilt. Okay. The back of the quilt. Hold on. I'm thinking. To the front. No. Nope. Okay, I don't know how to do it if you're going to hand tack it down to the back. Sorry. What I know how to do is how to do this by machine. And the beauty of a flange binding is when you're doing this by machine, you don't have to stitch on this. You're going to be stitching right in the ditch where these two come, or you can just find a coordinating thread and stitch right here in this narrow pop of color, and that's going to help. You're going to get the extra pop of color, but you're also going to make sure that you stay on your binding. And so the way I do it, because I do everything by machine, I will lay it down, thinking I've got to test this. I will lay it down with the green side up, the flange side up to the back of my quilt. And I'm going to stitch all the way around all four sides. And then once that's stitched down and I bring my quilt over and I pull this around, now you're going to get that pop of flange just like this. And if you want to, you can glue base this down or clip it down, and then you can just stitch in the ditch all the way along here. The reason why I don't think it's going to work to hand tack it down to the back is because let's say that this is the front of my quilt. If I lay this down here and I flip it around like this, the flange goes away. All that work that I did is gone. But if I secure it with the green on the back and flip it around, right? This is the front of the quilt. So you're going to have the black over here, and then the green is going to go on the back. The flange is going to go on the back. So in order for this process to work, I need to first secure it to the back and then roll it around to the front with the green side up. Does that make sense? I hope so. It is really going to pop. It is really going to pop. It's going to look great when it's all done, but I'm going to have some offline chatting with the binding to convince it to lay the way it's supposed to lay. So it'll probably be done sometime tonight or tomorrow. And once it is, I'll put a picture in the Facebook group, and I'll even share a photo or a reel here on YouTube so that you can see what that looks like when it's all done. It's always nice to see what the projects look like when they're complete. So with that, we're going to take a moment to go over to our Sew and Tell, and we're going to see what's going on in the Facebook group. I don't know why we're doing it this way. We don't need to see the chat and the Facebook group. Okay. Fine. I don't need both. Close this. Fine. Okay, I have no idea why it did that. 1 second, guys. Oh, I'm not clicked on the right window. Man, you would think I would know what I'm doing by now. But I don't. So, just so y'all know. Flicky Chicky is saying, yeah, flange binding is always back to front. There you go. There you go. Okay, so we're going to refresh the screen over here. And we'll see what you guys have been working on tonight. I'm excited about this. I don't know why. Oh, that works. Okay. Oh, hey, thank you, Millie, for the $2 super chat. I appreciate that. All right, Jody Smith. Oh, well, we'll read hers first. Jody Smith says, thanks so much for the cathedral window tutorial, Becca. I loved it and tried it straight away, making my mom a little pin cushion. In this photo, I didn't have the edge hand sewn together, but it is now. I am wanting to make a quilt, but I have to finish my wood first. That's awesome. Very pretty. You're very welcome, Millie. Thank you so much for the tip. I might be getting myself a Starbucks tomorrow. Jacqueline Kolb just finished this lovely Halloween table runner. Can you see the pictures? Yeah, okay. Jody Smith, we read yours. Moving on to Deb, she says, here's the first quilt I did a flange binding on. That's what I'm doing. The flange binding where you have that inner color. And do you see how, and we'll just pull it up so everybody can see. Do you see how she chose the main binding to be the same color as her background? And so all you see is this floating, really thin strip of color all the way around the quilt. That's what I'm doing.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah, neat, right? Part of quilting is being able to visualize what it's going to look like. At least for me, that's what it is for me. So she said that that was the first quilt that she did a flange binding on. By the way, your quilting looks phenomenal. I stitched to the back, then flipped it toward and top stitched with a matching thread to make it easier for me to finish. So you can hand finish your binding if you want to, but you always attach the back and flip it to the front, and then you just hand stitch to the front if you want. I'm going to machine stitch mine down to the front. She said the other quilt is the second Fat Quarter Shop 2023 Designer Mystery Quilt that I am putting together using scraps left over from the first one. Very pretty. Yep, I made the large version of that, and it's out with Beth for quilting. Yep.
I remember seeing it hanging up. Very nice.
Valerie says, I finally finished the borders on this quilt. Now I need to find a person to long arm it. The pattern is a long time gone. Hey, I will tell you, I highly, highly recommend either Tiffany from Tiffany's Quilting Life if you want custom quilting. She will do custom work for you, but I know she's got some things going on, so I don't know what her backlog looks like, but she does take customer quilts. Or Beth Goody Goods, Beth. She's on YouTube, Instagram, all the things. She is my, when I just need an edge to edge, like she's done graffiti quilting for me. She's done computerized edge to edge. I just send her boxes of quilts and she works on them as she has time, and her prices are very reasonable. So would absolutely trust either one of those with my quilts. So if you're looking for one, you do have to mail it, but they'll do a phenomenal job. Lori says that she thought she had all the big squares made and then went to put it together and she needed one more 8x8 square block. Hate it when that happens. Oh my goodness, look at the little VW buses. Dara's working on a VW bus quilt. She had to fix a little orange bus. It should have had a bumper. This one, I'm guessing, down here. Aren't those stinking cute?
Yeah.
So cute. She's looking at my computer monitor. Christine says, first finished baby quilt sewn on my new Brother 3100 sewing machine. Pretty. Laura Green says, I've been busy finishing old UFOs that have been hiding away for 8 to 10 years. I finished this card tricks quilt on the left and another pattern from one of Eleanor Burns' quilt book and a beachy quilt I started about 5 to 6 years ago. The beach quilt was made from batiks and I used a lightweight canvas type fabric for the backing. I did not put batting in between. I love a card trick block. I don't know why. I just do. Here is Nicole's Mariska Ellen. That's the name of the singer, right? Mm-hmm. Mariska Ellen. She's probably got a loose bobbin screw, so we'll have to take a look at that after the live stream. But that is her baby. And this is what she's been working on. There's a under the needle picture. These are the fabrics that she's using. I don't remember the name of the line. I think we threw the packaging away. It was, I want to say like Melody Spring. It was a Sandy Gervais line, a new Sandy Gervais line. I can tell you that much. But there are 2 charm square packs here. Becca, do you only use cotton thread in your quilts? Do you use a 90-14 needle to piece and bind your quilts? Becky Spencer, I use Aurifil cotton thread, 50 weight. I usually use color number 6722 because it blends with everything unless I'm working with black fabric. And what was the other part of the question? Oh, my needle, I just use an 80-12. It's just fine for everything that I do. If I'm going to go through a ton of bulk, then I might step up to a 90-14, but I use a Microtex 80-12 because I like to work with batiks, and the Microtex gives me a sharper point in those batiks, and it works better for higher count, higher thread count fabric, so like art gallery fabrics, batik, stuff that's tighter woven, that ultra sharp point is nicer. And it works with regular cotton too, so that way I don't have to think about, do I have a universal in there? Do I have a Microtex? What do I have? I just do 8012 Microtex, and I do keep a stash of 9014 Microtex just in case I need a bigger needle for something. Donna says, beautiful machine, Nicole.
Thank you.
Oh, she's showing off here her 1/4 inch, guys. She is so proud of that seam. It's nice and straight. You're doing great.
I'm loving it.
Yep. We just got to teach you I got to teach you the technique to pull the fabric when you're pressing so you don't get those pockets, those folds in there. One lesson at a time. Although Michael Reed says, this is my 1903 Singer 115 and it is now usable.
Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful machine. Kathy Nelson says, I finished my sister's birthday quilt. It was so fun to sew. The pattern was from the Fat Quarter Shop and it's called Layer Cake Lollies.
Nice.
Beautiful quilting.
Yeah. I love all the color in it.
Mm-hmm. This is from Amanda. She says she made a reversible scrub cap for work. She just needs to make some adjustments, but it is functional. Ooh, Lori. Lori says twice the fun quilts from Jaybird Quilts book. 2 of the 4 quilts that I need to finish by Friday. Girl, you better get sewing.
Oh my.
Roberta Lawson, this is her Friday night sew tonight. It's patchwork for 2 diagonal zipper pouches using the Hemingway style since she did not have an actual printed copy. So she's winging it. Holly says, so this is how far along I am so far. I will have to be really extra careful not to have any like fabrics touching when it comes time to assemble, but I am loving this. Yep. Oh, well, let's refresh the screen and see what else has come into the group. Cindy Dayton is saying, do you like piecing on the Singer 301 better than the 221? I believe the 221 is the featherweight, and the answer to that would be yes, because the 301 is faster. Paula Whedon says she's got 3rd place on both quilts at her county fair.
That purple one, Mom.
Oh, I love this one. It's the colors for me. Look at that tiny little star down here. Isn't that great? Oh, I love it.
That's pretty, but that purple one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. That one.
Oh, wow. I love that border. Nice. Nicely done. Congratulations on those needles. Joanne Showalter says, this is a store sample that I pieced. It's not quilted yet. Pretty. Paula Whedon says, the table topper I made for my mom. This is what she's showing us. Oh, look at the quilting that she did on the back of it. So pretty.
Yeah.
Jody Smith says, I know this is not sewing, but I made this exploding box card for my 6-year-old niece. She loves flowers, and I gifted her a scooter. That's okay. Let's take a look at the video. Just make sure that the volume is muted so we don't infringe. It says 6 around all 4 sides. Got a beautiful flower on the top.
That's so pretty. I like that.
Takes the lid off. Oh, look at that. And there's a little girl on a scooter inside of the park. And she's got a card over there that she put. Oh, isn't that cute? Aw. That's great. I love that. That's great. Mary Johnson says, it's still a work in progress, but at least I've gotten the process started. Woohoo! And so this is her new sewing room. She's finally getting settled into her sewing room in her new home. Mary also has an obsession with all things purple.
I know. I remember.
Kai Smith says, I haven't made anything this week, so I'm just showing everyone my birds. Aw. Remember Sue? Our stepmom's name was Sue. She used to have a bird called Jasper. Mm-hmm. They taught it to say, Becky's a ditz.
Becky's a ditz.
Becky's a ditz.
And it looked just like that one on the right.
It did. That's why I was like, Jasper. Yep, it looks like it. Jasper looked exactly like this bird. And then we're back to the first one. Wow. Oh, here we go. Squirrels. Deborah says she is making squirrel pillows. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at her little featherweight, Nicole. So Nicole doesn't know what a featherweight is. We're going to show her. So this little machine right here is even smaller than yours, and it's super lightweight. These are highly coveted machines, but they go really slow. Not probably about the speed yours does. They don't go the speed of this, but they are called Singer featherweights. Her eyes are like this. Is that you can graduate into a featherweight, okay? You'll play with the 99 and then we'll graduate.
Right now, I'm
yeah. Beautiful. I spy that little featherweight. Flicky Chicky needs that squirrel pattern. Somebody link to it in their in the comments of the photos. Lily says, I'm making progress on some Halloween gifts. So we have got a Jack Skellington little pouch. I love that dome-shaped pouch. And then we've got this cute little, looks like it's going to be a block when it's, but I like how these are kind of in a Polaroid setting. That's neat. That's a cool idea. And then we're back to the beginning. Okay, well, I don't think there's any new photos that have come in. So there we go. We're going to call it done with the Facebook thing. We're going to come back over here. So it is almost 10 o'clock. Nicole's machine needs a little TLC. We're going to go over there, dive in and figure out what's going on with it. And then I'm going to get back to work on the binding for this quilt. This is a quilt that needs to leave my home. Excuse me. It needs to leave my home on Monday. Its forever home has already been identified. My mother-in-law's sister is battling cancer, and I told her I would make her a quilt for her. So I grabbed one of my quilt tops that I already had with colors that I thought she would like, and we got it quilted up. And so I want to get this bound and labeled so that it can make its way over to her home on Monday when my mother-in-law leaves. So, yeah. That's really all I have, friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Nicole, for the little bit that you got to sew, were you happy? Yeah, she's just like, uh-huh. Are you ready to get sewing some more? Yeah, she's going, would you please just shut up?
Do you want to have an all-nighter tonight?
I don't know about an all-nighter, but maybe we'll stay up a little bit late. Thanks, friends, for hanging out with me. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below if you're not already. And come on back next week. Who knows what we're going to be working on Friday night. We'll see y'all then. Bye.